promised I'd make my favorite granola recipe for you, so we're gonna do that today. I'm excited to share this with you. I got it from my sister-in-law, who I think got it from her sister, who maybe got it from a friend. It's one of those recipes that's been passed around. I don't really know where it originally came from. Maybe you do. I am going to be making a larger amount of it than what the recipe that I will post in there. I'm doing 3 times that recipe. When I make granola, I like to just make up a big batch. It stores in the freezer beautifully. I just put it in freezer bags and then it's ready whenever, and it just tastes fresh when you pull it out. I also love to have it on hand if I want to give a little gift to somebody. It's a nice gift. I also think of granola as a treat. I don't really think of it as my cereal. I like it for parfaits, which are kind of like a dessert. I like to put granola on top of my bowl of oatmeal or on top of some other flakes so that it's not the meal itself. It's like an addition or a fun treat added to it, because we do have to keep in mind, and you'll see as we're making this, granola is a higher calorie food. Even though it's full of a lot of healthy things, it still has more calories, and we just want to watch how many of those we're eating. So we'll start with oats. These are old-fashioned oats, and I have 9 cups in here because I'm doing 3 times the recipe. And then it calls for also 9 cups of blended oats. If you'd rather buy oat flour, you could put that in, but I just put 9 cups in here and blended it up. Oats are really a great food. They're great for fiber. They have both soluble and insoluble, but they have more soluble fiber than most other grains. And soluble fiber kind of turns to a gel-like substance, and it helps you feel full longer. And that's always great if it can help us to eat less, right? Also, it's shown that it can help reduce cholesterol. So that's another great reason to have that soluble fiber. It does also have insoluble fiber, which is also very good for us because the insoluble attracts water to the stool, which keeps it soft and keeps it moving through. We all don't want to deal with constipation, so we want it to keep moving through. And so they work together. They also, fiber works as kind of like a scrub brush going through and helps clean out our intestines. I guess you didn't want to hear that while we're cooking, but I just love oats. They really are a very healthy food. Okay, we're going to throw our walnuts in there. Now walnuts, they're kind of fun because they look a little like a brain. Walnuts are good for the brain. And I love it when foods do that. It makes you easy to associate with what they're good for. They have omega-3s in them, fats, which is nice, which also reduces inflammation. Now, you could take a knife and really chop these up very nice and get them all to a uniform size. So I apologize to my OCD friends, because to me, I just like to have them in there. And as you know, I like to do things fast. So I don't usually take the time with a knife to chop them out and get them all even. I like to use my little handy chopper. Just get them to whatever size you like. If you like them smaller, make them smaller. I just like them chopped a little bit. I don't like the whole halves in there. So put those in. Okay, then we have some wheat germ. I buy wheat germ in bulk. It's just cheaper that way, but you can buy, it's a already toasted wheat germ in the cereal aisle in your grocery store. So if that's what you have access to, that's completely fine. This is going to be baked in here anyhow. Double baked won't hurt anything. Okay, then we have our flaxseed meal. Now flax seeds come these little cute little seeds. Our body cannot digest the whole of a flax seed. They're so little that you would think that you could, but you can't. So when you buy foods that say they have flax seeds in them and they tout that they have the omega-3s and all the benefits of your flax seeds, if they're whole, you're not getting all of those benefits, right? The flax seed has to be ground up so that our body can actually get that nutrition. I like to just use a little coffee grinder that I keep here in the kitchen. I throw those seeds in there, grind it up into a nice little meal. But you can also buy flaxseed meal, and it's usually in your baking aisle in the grocery store. So it'll be ground up for you already. All right. Get that mixed here a little bit. Now the coconut, depending on your health concerns, you might want to use unsweetened coconut. So you get the coconut flavor without the added sugar. I usually go ahead and use the regular coconut because, like I say, I'm eating this more as a treat. I'm not sitting and eating bowls of it every day. So what I have done for my triple recipe, I don't really even measure it. It is a little extra coconut by doing it this way. But when I triple the recipe, I put a whole 14-ounce bag of coconut in. This is my favorite granola spoon here. It's made by Calphalon. I have another big spoon that's almost just like it, but this one, the handle, I don't know if you can tell that, it's rounded. And this granola, you know, it's kind of hard to stir some of these big bowlfuls of things. And that rounded really, really makes it so much more comfortable. My other one is not, it's more thin and squared off, which kind of hurts my hand sometimes. So I always make sure I can find this one just because I like it. Okay, so the last thing now is our wet ingredients, which are only two. We have our oil. I have used an organic canola, cold pressed canola oil, but you could use whatever your favorite oil is. I have heard of people even using olive oil. That will change the flavor some though if you do that. All right, and then we add in our maple syrup. I know it looks like a lot of syrup, but keep in mind, this is a triple recipe. Okay, so that then already mixes up our wet ingredients just by mixing them there. I just pour it over the whole thing. And now where it gets a little bit harder. It is important at this point to keep stirring. I know sometimes you get to the place where you feel like you want to stop because it looks like it's gone around enough, but you don't want to be able to see the dry oat flour that we ground up. So that's kind of wet. We want to get it to where the whole thing changes colors. And then when you think you're finally done, it's looking really good, I go one more time. Go down really deep and check the bottom of that bowl. Go around the sides because that dry part just really likes to find little sections, pockets. And if you don't get it mixed up good with that oil and syrup, that part doesn't really, here's another pocket. It doesn't crisp up as nicely as. Okay, this is looking good. Now, we're going to spread it on our cookie sheets. Depending on how thick you spread your granola will really determine how long it cooks. I know there's a lot of granola recipes that call for going ahead and just baking it off at a higher temperature for a couple hours and being done. But to me, that gives it a harder crunch, and I like a softer crunch in my granola. And so I bake it at a lower temperature for a longer period of time so that it slowly dries out. And to me, that just gives it, it's easier to chew, but you still have that nice crunch to it as well. Okay, that looks good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bake it at about probably 200 for maybe a couple of hours. And then I'm going to turn it down. Since I'm doing this during the day, I'm going to turn it down to probably like 180 and let it bake for a couple more hours or something. And then I'm going to just turn it off and let it sit in the oven overnight. If you don't open your door, it stays nice and dry in there, and it will finish just a really slow crisp up of your granola. All right, let's get this on some. in the description for the recipe. I'll post the original recipe as well as my tripled version in case you want to make a big batch. If you have a standard size oven and you're able to do at least 3 different cookie sheets in there, you probably could still do a double recipe and spread your granola out enough. And you actually can stack your granola thicker if you don't mind stirring it. I am such a messy person. When I have to stir my granola, I have half of it on the floor. So I like to spread it out as much as I can on my sheets and bake it really slow and then let it sit in the oven. And that way it crisps it all up and dries it out without me having to do a lot of that stirring. Okay, we'll pop that in the oven here. This can easily be made gluten-free just by buying gluten-free oats and omitting the wheat germ. And we'll check on it later. Good morning. It's time to see how our granola is this morning. You'll notice I have a sticker here on my oven door that says granola. I've learned from past experience that if I don't label it, I might come down in the morning and forget that I left it in there and preheat my oven to cook something. And as your oven preheats, it gets really hot to begin with and it burns the top of your granola. So I've learned to try to prevent that with my notes. Looks good. Now remember, I didn't stir my granola because I left it in there to dry for so long. If you want to get your granola done sooner, just stir it maybe every 15 to 30 minutes as you're baking it. Okay. That is good and crispy. It has a light crunch. It doesn't hurt your teeth to eat it. I tried something. I was curious after I put that in the oven. I took a little bit back out and put it in my food dehydrator because I wondered if I could do my granola in the food dehydrator, just let that run, do it at a little bit lower temperature. I had some blueberries drying in there anyhow. So it's at 135 and I put my granola in and it dried it out nicely, as you can see here. Let's see what it tastes like though. It did not cook all night. I'm not sure. I think it maybe cooked for about 8 hours though in there. I'm not sure I can tell a big difference. Maybe just a little bit more of a raw flavor, but it still has crunch. It's really good. So now I'm ready to make my favorite breakfast. One of my favorite. I love breakfast. So I have my oatmeal here. I like to put just a few dates in it. Sweeten it up. Kind of stir those around in there. And I like to put some granola on top. Not a whole lot, because remember, granola is a pretty high calorie food, but it gives it a little bit of crunch, which is nice. And now that it's blueberry season, picked these yesterday from my neighbor's farm. And there we go. Breakfast is ready. Mmm. 2.5 gallons. That's pretty good. Probably a little bit more if you actually measured it out, because I stuffed these bags, which I have found they hold more than what they say they hold. Shout out to my father-in-law. This one has your name on it. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel.